Hello, my name is Linda Abraham, and I'm the president and founder of Accepted and the moderator for today's webinar. I've been a medical school admissions consultant for roughly 25 years, a little over actually, and I want to welcome all of you to ACE Your Medical School application. Now, a few to-dos before we dive into the content. I do have a short presentation planned to be followed by Q&A, which is going to be the majority of the workshop, webinar, whatever you want to call the next hour or so. If you've not yet downloaded and printed out the worksheet for today's Q&A, please do so. You'll find it in your dashboard under the handout section. My personal recommendation is that you actually print it out and use it to follow along, write down comments or thoughts that you have as we're progressing. Now, we also may ask questions during the Q&A and ask you to raise your hand, though again, most of the Q&A is going to be for your questions. You can respond to our questions in the question window and also post your questions in the question window. If we ask you to raise your hand, that means that you should click the hand icon on your control panel, two icons underneath the horizontal orange arrow. If you raise your hand in front of the monitor, it won't do anything. You have to click that icon. So right now, if you want to go to medical school in order to pursue your dream career, please raise your hand. Again, if you want to go to medical school in order to pursue your dream career, please raise your hand. Good. Good. All right. Most of you found the icon and are here for the right reasons. Oh, fantastic. Good. Okay. Now, raising hands allows you to respond to our questions. And as I said before, what about your questions? You're going to put them in the question window. Most of this presentation will be devoted to them, and you can post them at any time. Last point. When you leave, you'll receive a brief survey. Please fill it out. We value your feedback, and we use it as we plan new webinars and improve whatever existing ones that we have. Oh, and one more thing. Before I introduce today's experts who will be responding to your questions, I've been told that webinar attendees are sometimes so curious about the special offer at the end that they forget to pay attention to the content. I don't want that to happen to you. So on your screen, you can see the special for today. And it's a real good one. $250 off any primary application and $500 off a primary plus secondary application. This offer ends March 19th. Coupon code Save Big, and you can sign up at accepted.com/primary. We're giving you a full week to do this, not so that you forget about it, so that you can actually contact a consultant and get comfortable with that consultant before you buy. All right, finally, I'm thrilled to introduce the experts who will be responding to your question. They are Cydney Foote, an accepted medical school admissions consultant since 2001, who previously served in an administrative role on the University of Washington's medical school. Dr. Herman Gordon, unfortunately, is under the weather. He lost his voice, so he will not be joining us, but Dr. Barry Rothman is here. He is the founder and former director of several post-bac programs at Cal State San Francisco and Accepted's medical school admissions consultant since 2015. Now, I have a question for you before we continue. How many of you, when do you plan to submit your primary application? The options are June, July, August, September, or later, which could include next year, by the way. Okay? So again, the options are June, July, August, September, or later. We're at 71% having voted. Can we get it up? All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So we have 68% wisely aiming for a June submission, 5% for July, 5% for August, and 21% for September or later, which I assume means most of them are for next year. Okay, great. Thank you. Let's face it. It's hard to get accepted to medical school. The process is long, difficult, and grueling. In my opinion, and Accepted works with applicants to multiple kinds of graduate and professional programs, medical school is the most demanding application process. And of course, medical school isn't just about, and these statistics on your screen right now kind of not only is it long and grueling process, it's a process that's very difficult to be successful at. And it's while these are stats, medical school isn't just about stats. Medical school admissions officers are very serious about holistic review. Schools want to see commitment to service, the ability to work in teams, exposure to clinical healthcare, professionalism, and they expect to see all that and more through your medical school application. On a very high level, the primary application, whether for osteopathic or allopathic medical schools, is about your fitness to serve as a physician. It should show the following. And you want to ACE the primary application, and ACE stands for 1, academic ability. You should show that you have the ability to do well in medical school. This is absolutely imperative. Now, doing well can be different things to different people, but you have to show you can handle the work. Medical schools do not want to admit people in fear that you're going to drop out. C is for clinical exposure. They want to know that you know what a clinical career in medicine is about and are making an informed decision. And essence, well, essence is really about your personal qualities, but personal qualities wouldn't make my acronym. So it's essence. Personal qualities. Doctors should have compassion, communications ability, love of service, teamwork skills, and leadership ability. Now, the secondary applications and interviews should, in addition to reinforcing the points made in the primary, show fit with the schools you are applying to, the individual schools that either you are submitting a secondary to or interviewing with. In terms of content and focus, that's how you will ace your medical school application. The other key ingredient is time, a lot of it. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a time-consuming, grueling process. Allow a lot of time. The medical school application is a marathon, not a sprint. And you have to plan for it like a marathon because it takes months to apply. It's March now. You presumably have already taken some steps to prepare yourself to apply in terms of your coursework and activities. Most of you are planning to apply in June. That's 3 months from now. You're hoping to get secondaries in July, preferably in July, perhaps in August. You're hoping to have interviews in the fall and be accepted, if you're lucky, by the end of the year. But of course, it could go on. It could go on into late winter or spring of next year. So again, this is a marathon. And it could even be next summer before you know if you're actually going to medical school. So how do you prepare for this marathon? I mentioned time, and I was in an acronym mood when I started creating this presentation. So time is obviously what I indicated a minute ago, but it also stands for train for the MCAT. Prepare and get the best score you can the first time you're taking it. If you have to retake it, do so, but make sure that the next time is the best score. You don't want to be a serial MCAT taker. And then investigate the different programs so that you apply to programs more likely to accept you based on your qualifications, your shared values, the school strengths, your interests, and their preference for in-state versus out-of-state students, if they have one. And then there are the written parts of your application, the most meaningful experience pieces, the personal statement, and the activity descriptions. Now, Dr. Gordon, when he saw the notes for this presentation, he said, I don't start with the most meaningful experiences. I start with the personal statement. And of course, that's just fine. It just wouldn't have worked with my acronym. So you need to write outstanding, most meaningful experiences, personal statement, and activity descriptions in whatever order you want. And you can start working on those ASAP or as soon as you finish the MCAT. And then you need to equip yourself and prepare for a deluge of secondaries by pre-writing the most common secondaries are the ones you are most likely to get during the lull after you submit your primary and before the secondaries actually start to come. Now, I would also encourage you, as you saw from the offer before, to get someone experienced, knowledgeable, and objective while still being supportive to guide you through this process. Given the complexity of the application process and the odds, that guide can be really useful as you're going through it because they know the process inside and out and they can support you on your way. Now, you need Accepted to be your guide because with Accepted, you can access professional expert advice, save time, apply with confidence, and apply successfully. We survey our clients every year and the statistics are usually very similar, but last year, 91% of our client respondents were accepted to medical school. In a nutshell, you get candor, objectivity, combined with decades of experience in med school admissions by your side as you go through the tough application process. Now, I'd like to introduce a few of Accepted's outstanding consultants, and they will answer your questions now and work with you in the future if you want. Okay, so again, we have Cydney Foote, an Accepted medical school admissions consultant since 2001, who previously served in an administrative role at the University of Washington's Medical School, and Dr. Barry Rothman, founder and former director of several post-bac programs at Cal State San Francisco, and an Accepted medical school admissions consultant since 2015. And they are now unmuted, right? And we are also going to, instead of being disembodied, at least two of us will stop being disembodied voices, and we will put on our videos. Okay, so now at the moment, I don't see us, but I assume you can.
I can see both of you.
Okay, great. So hello, everybody. I don't know why I don't see me, but whatever. Okay, so let's see. So far, we don't have any questions. No questions from the audience? All right, that was something I didn't expect. Did I answer all your questions with my short presentation?
I have a question.
Okay, go
you
for
could
it.
pose. Maybe ask the participants, what are they most scared about the application process?
That's a
what
great
do they
idea.
feel most uncomfortable about?
We actually do have a question coming in. Now, I would actually like to have some more disembodied voices here, and I would like to be able to unmute you. If you don't want to be unmuted, because maybe it's I know you have a lousy internet connection, or you're in a noisy location, please just say don't unmute, and that's fine. This is not okay, fine. So Bridget, you are now unmuted. You can ask your question.
Hi, good evening. First off, thank you so much for your time tonight.
You're
I
welcome.
find this really helpful already. And I was curious, for people that are applying the first time around, ideally to medical school, what advice specifically have you found to be the most useful for non-traditional students, either because of their career background or non-traditional just because of their chronologic age, etc.?
Can I take that?
Barry, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Bridget. I think, first of all, don't discount your non-traditional application. Med schools like non-traditional applicants because they have a lot of life experience. So I would say make sure to include a lot of the things that are part of your life experience in your experience section and relevant parts in your personal statement. I've noticed a lot of first-time applicants don't hold valuable some of the things that they've done. And there can be some really odd things that you might not think are valuable, but are. For example, being a bartender is a fantastic way to both make money with flexible hours and get a lot of experience dealing with difficult clients. So in a way, that's good training for medical school. And if you didn't put that in your application, you might be losing out on being recognized for your interpersonal skills.
Great answer. Sid, do you have anything to add?
Yes, absolutely. That would be my first advice, is to make sure that you bring your past experiences to the table, because there's a lot of value in that. The hardest thing, I think, for people especially with career changers or people who have been out of medical school for a long time, is figuring out how to condense it and put everything that they've done. I have had a client last year who had done so many amazing things, and it was really hard to figure out what the main things were to talk about. So it's trying to see a pattern in your work and trying to find out how that can link to where you are now in your life and where you want to go. That I think is really important in bringing all that to the table.
Okay,
I would
great.
add,
yeah, go ahead.
I would add that the kinds of experiences you definitely want to emphasize are, of course, clinical experiences and experiences with the healthcare system of any kind, and also social justice experiences, which are not necessarily clinical. Things that you've done to support other communities, especially disadvantaged communities. That's very important to show in your application.
Right. Okay, thank you very much for that question, Bridget. And
Absolutely.
let's see. You're welcome. Okay, so next question will be from Jocelyn. And let me get to her and we can unmute her. And Sid, why don't you take that one first?
Okay.
Jocelyn, go ahead. You there? Not.
Oh,
No
I
problem.
apologize. I thought you were going to read my question. My question was, my question was in response to the prompt of what's our biggest fear for applying to medical school, and I would definitely say that I fear that the first thing people are going to look at numbers and then just push it aside. Oh, not what our school wants. I'm not even going to read the personal statement. I'm not going to read the rest.
So a couple of answers. One is you definitely need to be careful about picking the schools that you want to apply to. I definitely, when I'm advising about school selection, I look at both the mean of the school and what they normally want to accept, as well as the lower scores that they have accepted in the past or in the last year or two. That gives me a better idea, I think, of if they are looking at an application more holistically, or if they are just more, focused on the numbers. So you can tell a lot from that. But if your numbers are below a certain level, then it does reflect, questions about whether or not you might be able to handle medical school curriculum. So if they are significantly lower than the average, and there aren't a lot of schools where you can apply to, then you really should consider doing either a post-baccalaureate program or a special master's program to bring those up, or to show in some other way that you are capable. But if you have those lower scores, sometimes you just can't get over them if they're very, very low, and it's very frustrating to go through the whole application process and not have a great application, but not be able to get past those numbers. So do everything that you can to bring those up.
Thanks. Appreciate the response.
Sure. Good luck.
Barry, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes.
Jocelyn?
Yes.
Go ahead.
A lot of times people get worried about their average GPA or their average BCPM GPA, and medical schools like to see progress. So it's not the average of everything that's as important as the trajectory of your academic record. So if you're somebody who started out freshman and sophomore year not knowing how to deal with college and not getting good grades, but then getting better and better grades as you went along, that's taken as a positive. I would say that schools like to see 2 years of sustained high grade point average. So as Sid said, sometimes tacking on a post-bac program can help if you're an academic enhancer type person. And then in terms of MCAT, I would say, first of all, do not take the MCAT until you feel you're really prepared, as based on practice tests. You really have to know that you're going to get reasonable scores. And if not, then step back and try to figure out what's wrong, what you need to do to get higher scores, rather than take the MCAT and then take it again and again. That creates more of a problem. So it's better to be patient and deal with the MCAT head on and find out what your issues are if you're not getting the scores that you need.
Sounds like great advice to me. Okay. Thanks, Jocelyn, for the question. Thanks, Sid and Barry, for the responses. Now, let's see. A couple of people asked not to be unmuted, but okay. Hannah, you have a very good question. I'm going to try and you seem to be self-muted. All right, so I'm going to ask your question. Hi, I have a question about making your entire med school application stronger and more competitive. Sid, you want to start with that one? That's kind of a tough one. Yeah, that's a big one. Can you be a little bit more specific, Hannah? You can be a minute. About what specific part of your application is concerning you? I mean, there's lots of ways. One would be improve your grades, improve your scores, get more clinical, write better essays, write better activity descriptions. if there's one particular part of it that's concerning you, because when minute you use the word better or improved, it's a little bit harder to do. All right, I think we're going to come back to Hannah's question, but let's go to Nura. And okay, here we are. Okay, she's also self-muted, so I will ask her question. How should we convey academic ability in a personal statement when we have a low undergraduate GPA but a better improved post-bac GPA?
Okay,
Barry, you want to start with that one?
sure. Well, in a way, it speaks for itself that you put it together in a post-bac program and had more difficulty as an undergrad. Oftentimes, students go through a maturation process as an undergrad, learn how to manage their time better, maybe have better life circumstances in general. So I think just explaining that was very helpful. During my undergraduate years, I had X, Y, and Z going on, and that made it difficult for me to perform at the level at which I'm capable. However, after I graduated, I joined a post-bac program and dedicated all of my energies to improving my grades and was able to do that. So a story like that, I think, works very well, and it's usually an authentic story, and that plays well with medical schools. I would say, in answer to the first very general question, how to improve your application, the thing that comes to my mind, if I had to give a simple answer, would be to be authentic, to really be yourself so that they get a sense of who you are. And I know there are many ways to be authentic, but that's a very important aspect of applying. In
But
my
that's your
opinion.
best authentic self.
Yes. Yes.
Sid, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, back to Nura's question
Yes.
about how to show that improvement. I think one thing that's very effective is showing that your purpose is clearer and really affirming that purpose from your post-baccalaureate work to show that, you know, you may have not had the direction you had in as an undergraduate, but like Barry said, the maturation process as well as having a clear vision of wanting to be a doctor is really a good way to present yourself to bring those grades up.
Right. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. This is kind of a different question. I'm going to unmute Chun. I'm apologize if I mispronounce anybody's name. Okay, here we go. Okay, Chun, you're on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi there. So when I was younger, I had gotten into a 7-year medical program and I had started it. Towards the end of it, my mother had gotten extremely ill and I had come back home. My father has his own business, so I didn't want him to close it. I took a gap year and then I came back and I had brought my mother up with me and I had decided that it would not be fair to keep her up there for 4 years. So I decided to close up shop and come back and regroup and try again later if that was really what I wanted to do. I continued with community service. I continued with creating my own business in the medical field. And I, reconfirmed my aspirations to become a doctor, and I just want to do it the right way.
So Barry, you want to, I'm going to guess you have a few questions there.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
By the way, just to explain, the only reason that Barry is not on video is because there's an electrical problem in his neighborhood. So otherwise he would also, yeah. Okay, go ahead, Barry, go ahead.
Chun, I was just trying to get a little more clarity. Did you go to a different country to do this 7-year medical program, or
No, it was here at Boston University.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay,
by the time I reached medical school, I was 19, so I had the option to defer a year. Then I had made the decision that, it won't be the end of the world if I decide to apply later. And so I had taken that step and said, it's okay, it's not going to be the end of the world. Let me try again once everything is situated at home.
So did you actually enter that medical program and go through it for a number of years, or did you just not uh, accept admission? I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, no, I had not accepted admission. I had deferred that year because they had already accelerated me in another year. And
Hmm.
I was taking my medical school courses. Though I was not admitted, they give us an opportunity to take medical school courses in our first year to skip a year.
Uh-huh.
So I had done that. And then during that time is when my mother got sick. I spoke to my advisor, and he had told me these are the options you can do. It's okay if you don't get credit for this because you're just going to have to do it again anyways. And it's just a good
Right.
basis for you. Um, so yeah, that
Okay.
was pretty much what was leading up to it. But I did not accept admission into the medical school.
Well, actually, I'm glad to hear that because I think that
Okay.
makes it a lot clearer. Uh, so I think you can explain that
Okay.
maybe a little bit in your personal statement and maybe a lot in your secondaries. And I think
Yes.
medical schools will understand that. I mean,
Okay.
it makes total sense to me, and it seems to me you were being actually rather mature in your decision-making process.
Right.
Uh,
Especially for
and you've
19.
given yourself a lot of time to uh, become an even stronger applicant. So I
Absolutely.
think the schools will understand that and they won't look down on it. In fact, I think they'll be impressed.
Thank you so much. I had one more question, if that's okay.
Okay,
Um,
one more.
I promise, just one more. So I had done a master's program and had started my own business, but I don't have any research. And I'm wondering, I do have, thankfully, one of my deans offered me a research position as a research assistant for a textbook, but I don't think that really qualifies as medical research. The textbook is in systems design thinking in healthcare administration. And it's a new field. They haven't written a book, so nobody steal the idea. I'll be in big trouble. But I was wondering, can that be put down for research, or is it really just the standard working in a lab and helping out scientists, move forward the line of medicine every day?
Uh-huh. Um, I think that qualifies as research. There's different kinds
Okay.
of research. There's demographic research and wet lab research and research that goes into writing scholarly works. So don't think negatively of it.
Okay.
It's still a creative process, and I think you should definitely claim it as one of your experiences. And it sounds like you've made good use of your time
Hmm.
and have gotten a lot of good life experience. And so
Hmm.
I would say be cautious about thinking negatively about your experiences and get some support from people around you, uh, or maybe one of our consultants who
Yes, sir.
understands that who understands that these are very positive things. I have often worked with clients who have a more critical view of their own work than I do.
Hmm.
Of course, we tend to be self-critical more than other people are critical of us. So it's helpful to have a voice of reason that says, no, that was really good. I'm glad you did
Thank you so much. I really
And sometimes
appreciate
it's
it.
helpful to have a voice that
Yes. Uh-huh.
you're very, very welcome, Sean. Sid, do you have anything to add?
Just Sean, I found your story really compelling as you were telling it, and I think that it's not anything that you're going to have issues with. A lot of times, those the decisions that you make can lead you away from medicine, but
Yeah.
finding your footing and coming back, that journey is something that's very important. The medical schools need to know about that. So I think that
Okay.
you're in good shape with that. And research is, it's a great thing to have, but if you don't have bench research, that's okay.
Okay.
Some people get into medical school and do research there, and some people never do research. So you're okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for the support, guys. I really appreciate it.
that. Wait,
Good
I
luck.
have some more support for you,
You're
Chun.
very welcome.
Oh, please.
Go ahead.
So, Chun, I'm guessing you come from some kind of Asian heritage. Is that true?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Are you Korean or Chinese?
Actually, I'm Indian. We are
You're in.
Kashmiri.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, that's a place that's seen a lot of conflict.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
uh, so don't forget to point out that you're bicultural and bilingual if that's true for you.
I speak
medical
6 languages. Yes.
Oh my
That's
God.
my
Wow.
biggest thing. Yeah.
Dylan, don't
Yeah,
hold
definitely
that
point
back.
it out.
Yeah,
Yes,
point
sir.
it out. It shows
Okay.
tremendous cultural competence. I mean, you'll be
Okay.
able to deal with people from many different backgrounds in a humble way. That's fantastic.
Okay. Thank you so
I also
much. Yeah.
we're
Uh-huh.
going to move on, but I just want to point out, if you remember when I gave that acronym ACE, academic ability, clinical exposure, and then essence, you showed tremendous responsibility and commitment by deferring your medical education to take care of your family. And I think medical schools will see it that way. So show the
Yep.
other components too, and I don't think it'll be a problem at all.
All right. Thank you guys so
Okay?
much. Really, this makes me feel a lot better. Thank you.
Good. Okay, great. All right, let's get some other questions. So that was a really good one. Brittany asks, and she does not want to be unmuted. My question is, how important is the primary application date of submission? June versus July, later in the fall? Sid, you want to start with that one? It's a great
Sure.
question.
So schools are looking at them, most schools are looking at them as they come in, and interview slots are handed out as they see people that they're interested in. The earlier you get your application in, the smaller the pool is and the more chance that they're going to see you and like you. If you apply in August, they've already seen so many applications that there can be, there may be someone already has the same profile or similar profile to you. There may be other things that they know more about what their class is going to look like and you don't fit it. So it's important to be in that first group as much as possible. Having said that, I want to make people understand that this year it's May 27th. That date is not, I think it's the 27th. That date is not a deadline. If it will help your application to spend an extra week or two or a month to get it ready, then do that. But try to keep those early dates in mind. The other thing I would say is that the way that applications are verified, it's your application goes to the central clearinghouse and it is processed. They go through all your transcripts and everything, but they don't actually send out your application until the end of, I can't remember the date for this year, but it is like the end of June. So there's a month there. Most people who get their applications in the first week are still in that first batch that goes out on the initial day. So you already have some wiggle room there. All I'm trying to say is don't kill yourself to try to get it in on that first day. Make it as strong as you possibly can and send it off when you feel comfortable with it and when you know that it's the best image of yourself that you can give.
Okay, Brittany has a follow-up question on that, and I suspect it's something that a lot of people are asking. Is it okay to submit without an MCAT score?
It is technically you can submit without an MCAT score. The problem is that a lot of schools will consider your if you already have an MCAT score on record and it wasn't a good one, they might consider that one instead of a new one that's you're waiting to have it come in. Others won't even look at your application until then. That said, you can send it in if you want to go ahead and send in the secondaries and all that. It's just that your application probably won't be viewed as a whole until they have all the information they need to look at it. So.
Right. Barry, do you want to add anything to the timing question?
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with Sid about it's good to make sure you have a strong application, and rushing your application and having it not be carefully read and looked at could really hurt you. And the first 4 weeks of the application process are probably equal in that it's not till the end of June that the first batch of verified applications goes out. In terms of the MCAT score, Sid pointed out some really good information. If you have an old MCAT score, you really don't want to submit. If you're going to retake the MCAT, you need to be careful about when you submit your application, because you don't want schools to judge you on your old MCAT score. And sometimes they don't know that you're going to be retaking the MCAT. So in that case, I would hold off on the application until I knew what my new MCAT score was. if the old one was a low score.
Okay, great answers. Let's see. Okay, this is from Joanne. Let me see if I can unmute you, Joanne. Yep. Nope, Joanne self-muted, so I will just read her question. What if during undergraduate school, my trend was quite opposite? I started high but decreased during junior and senior year. Would attending a master's program in biomedical science and showing improvement in those higher level classes help increase my chances of getting accepted? Have you had anyone accepted with this type of situation? Barry, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah. So what's the person's name again?
Joanne?
Joanne. What Joanne,
Joanne.
is describing is what I would call a downward trend. And med schools do not like seeing that. And Joanne is right. She needs to do something to show an upward trend. And going to some kind of post-undergraduate education is the way to do that. But I would not recommend a master's program until you first check out a post-bac program. Master's programs tend to have a lot of grade inflation, and so their grades are less believable than post-bac programs, which oftentimes use an undergraduate curriculum. So, and also many of the master's programs are very expensive, and post-bac programs tend to be less expensive. So I would first look at post-bac programs because I think that's a more credible way of showing true academic improvement.
Sorry, Barry, do you mean post-baccalaureate and special master's programs?
Well, I guess the way I think of
The medical
special
one?
masters, the way I think of special master's programs is after you've tried the post-bac program, then go to a special master's program.
Okay.
They're very expensive. I mean, a special master's program is $50,000 a year.
I mean, a lot
They
of
are
people.
expensive. Yes.
Yeah. I know some people feel though that if they get the special masters, they'll end up with a master's degree, and if they go to a post-bac program, they don't end up with any degree. How would you respond to that concern? I don't have an opinion on it. I know that I've heard that from some people.
I mean, if you think you're not going to get into medical school and having a master's degree will be helpful, yeah, but I think medical schools are less concerned about degrees than they are about your actual academic performance. So that's why I think post-bac programs are seen in a more credible light than master's programs. Now, special master's programs have the advantage that many of them have you taking courses with medical students or other health profession students. And in that case, it's a really good litmus test for your ability to handle the curriculum. But again, they're very expensive, and I think of them as the last resort and would rather see people going to post-bac programs to improve their academic record and only then think about special master's programs.
Sid, do you have something to say?
I was just laughing because Barry's a post-bac guy.
I know that.
Value in both. I mean, I think that some of the special master's programs are excellent. So like Barry just said, a lot of them you are thrown in with the medical students. You're taking classes alongside them, and it is a sink or swim situation. But if you do well in them, you can definitely show that you have, you've got what you need to succeed in medical school. So I guess it really depends on your circumstances. Some people will prefer to do, to go the post-bac route, and that does help with your undergraduate grades. But the special master's programs, as opposed to just going to, say, a biology department and doing a master's degree there, would be what I would recommend. That where it gives you the structure and the specific things that you're going to need in medical school is a better option than just doing a general master's program.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let's move on to somebody else's. Yeah. We went through. Okay, let's move on to Ours, I don't know. I don't want to give your last name. I'm going to unmute you. You have a question. Well, you've muted yourself. Okay, I'll ask your question then. Okay, if you have, this is from, he just gave his initial R, okay? If you have a GPA of 3.4 in the 3.4 range, and we're considering to do a master's after undergrad with the ultimate hope of attending medical school, is there a difference in these between a thesis master's and a no thesis master's? Barry, you want to take that one?
Yeah. Um, this is more of a just personal opinion. I would like to see a thesis because I think there's a lot of creative work that goes into a thesis, and your thesis advisor could write a letter for you that is probably well informed in terms of understanding your qualities. That would be my preference, but I think you could do well in a thesis-driven or non-thesis master's program. I think you could be successful using both. I just happen to like the creative aspect of writing a thesis.
Okay. Sid, do you have anything to add?
Yes,
Sid,
well,
do you have anything to add?
not really. Not really. No. I mean,
Okay.
I do think it's a personal opinion. I think that either could be valuable for medical school. So
Yeah.
really.
Okay. All right. So let's go on to Nora has an interesting question, and I'm going to try and unmute her. Let's see if, nope, she's also self-muted. So I will ask her question. It is, what criteria should we evaluate when choosing a medical school? MCAT score, GPA, etc. Okay.
Yes.
Sid, you want to start?
All of the above.
Okay.
You definitely need to.
You like that one. Okay, go.
Yeah. You definitely need to meet the school's quantitative, what they're looking for in the quantitative factors. But you also should look for the ethos of the school, their mission, what kind of environment they have. And it really helps to know what is your learning style. Do you do better in like non-competitive environments where you have like a pass-fail type curriculum? Or do you like to push yourself against other people? There's schools for both kinds. Do you like urban settings, or are you more interested in going out into the community and doing like, rural or community medicine? Do you need a big academic center? So there's a lot of different factors that go into it, and it helps if you know what you're looking for. A lot of people will just apply because they know that a school is good, but really being able to show that match and showing that you are going to be a good fit for the school is very important, because that will help them show that you're going to stick with it and that they're not going to, their investment in you is going to pay off.
Okay, great. Barry, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would like to add, I mean, Sid summed it up very well. So I would add something a little further down in the admissions process. Let's say you were admitted to more than one medical school, which of course, that's a great problem to have. That's the time when you want to visit the school again and do and interview them. So during your first interview, you're on the spot and you want to do well, of course, and you want them to like you. But if you have to decide between two schools, visit them both and really get the vibe by hanging out with students, maybe even asking them to put you up with some students and get the candid view of the students so that you can make a more informed decision. There's, how medical schools look on paper, and then there's the experiential part of it, where you actually get a sense of the culture that's at the school. So that's a little add-on to what Sid said.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, we also have a question here from Abdul, and I'm going to read it because I think he asked me to mute him earlier. In regards to clinical exposure, does working as a phlebotomist and clinical microbiologist dealing with patient specimens and ID docs for 2 years serve as substantial clinical exposure to cover the C in ACE? I guess that would be my statement, that clinical exposure is required. Barry, you want to take that one?
Sure. I think phlebotomy is a fantastic experience because you deal directly with patients. And you really need to know what it's like to deal with patients, because your career is going to be dealing with a lot of patients. So I think that is good. In terms of the clinical microbiology, I'm not sure if that's more being in a lab without contact with patients or not. So if that were the only experience, I would say find something where you have patient contact, especially contact with patients who don't have a lot of financial resources, because their healthcare situations are far worse, and you really need to understand that to be a competent healthcare provider. If you're doing clinical laboratory work, that's fine. I would just make sure I also have patient contact.
Okay, great. And then we have another question here. Sid, first of all, do you have anything to add to that? Or you started that one?
No, that's okay. I just think phlebotomy is a great experience because you're really having to put people at ease. So that's a really good patient exposure.
Okay. All right. And one last question from Alia. How does the medical school committee feel about a student that failed academically in the past, but is improving their GPA? Sid, do you want to start with that one?
Alia, are you still in school now?
Okay, well, let me see if I can unmute her, because that will help.
And when you say failed academically, what do you mean?
Okay, Aaliyah, you're now unmuted. Are you there? Well, she might have stepped away. Are you there?
Okay. Well, I'll just dig it. So any Fs on your record are going to be, that's a big red flag for admissions committee. So you've got to address that.
She said she's currently in school, Sid.
Okay. Okay.
And her mic's not working. So you can ask some questions and I'll just read the responses.
Okay. Are we talking about Fs, and if so, how many? Or more like Cs or Ds? Neither one is great, but it's going to be, it's hopefully going to be something you can improve. In terms of, like Barry said, having that upward trend is very important. It is very, very, very hard to improve your GPA after a big drop. So getting it back up to a competitive standard is really hard to do by taking classes, semester after semester. So really, when you end up, you need to figure out how you're going to end up when you graduate, what your GPA is going to be. You might want to stay a little bit longer and take some more classes. That's a possibility that a lot of people will take advantage of. So postpone your graduation by another year and just take more classes to prove that you have that experience and that strength in the courses where you were struggling with. Other option is, the post-bac or special master's program route we're talking about. So there's different ways to look at it, but it is so slow to try to build up your GPA course by course by course that you really need to assess where you're going to be at the end of that, at the end of your college career.
If any of you are wondering why I'm looking down because we had a podcast fairly recently, and I'll try and find it and then give you the URL, where the applicant, who's doing great now, she's gone to a top medical school, I think she's in residency, she failed Calc 1, I think, in her freshman year. And she did not, I don't believe she did a post-bac, if I recall. So I'll give that out or post it when I find it. But anyways, did you want to say anything more, Sid, or should we ask Barry if he has something to add?
Just, Aaliyah, if you have failed any of those courses, you really need to retake them. You need to show that you made substantial improvements since then. That's the biggest thing I would say to do. So, yeah, that's it.
Barry, do you want to add to that? I know you worked you worked with a lot of people who had all kinds of academic difficulty.
Yes. I've seen people get into medical school who have had, very difficult first couple of years. First of all, you need to explain what was going on so that medical schools understand, what was causing the low grades, and then explain what you did to correct that. There's nothing like a heroic journey of improvement to impress a medical school. And then next, I would say, you need to show that you can have a sustained high GPA for at least 2 years. So if you have, let's say it was only your senior year that you really did well, let's say over a 3.5, then spend an extra year or two as a postbac. If you actually did quite well your junior and senior year, that's 2 years, then maybe that's enough to show that you've really been able to get it together. But they want to see sustained high-level performance. So if in those 2 years you get a couple of C's, then that makes it a little harder. I would like to see all A's and B's for 2 years to show that you really have it together in terms of your academics.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm not finding it right now. It was about a year ago that I interviewed this young woman who definitely failed her first calculus class. I also interviewed a few years ago, and I'm blanking right now on his name, but he had all kinds of academic blemishes and difficulties. He is currently an orthopedic surgeon, a spinal surgeon. He did a post-bac program. He got, I think, into Georgetown Medical, and then he did an orthopedic residency, and then a fellowship for spinal surgery. And I'm just blanking on his name. I have a picture of him in my mind because I've been following him ever since. An incredible story of overcoming all kinds of hardships, academic, personal, amazing story. And maybe we'll send it out afterwards. I'll look it up. But a lot of these things can be overcome. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes commitment and self-discipline if you want it badly enough. Sid has worked with clients who've overcome difficulty. Barry has a career setting up post-bac programs and working with people who needed academic enhancement. And it's a reality. You can do it if you want to do it. And at this point,
Can I add just one thing real quick?
Of course.
That the inverse of that is interesting too, that you can come through, have a 4.0 GPA and not necessarily get into medical school. So it's not just about the grades. It's like Barry said, it's very much your journey, and it's how you spent your time along the way. And it's also your commitment to the community and the service that you're doing, and really showing that you will be a good physician. A lot of people will graduate with great grades, but don't have that. So, it's not an either or thing. It's not just about grades.
It's holistic review. Now, R is asking, what is a competitive standard GPA? That depends. Depends on which school you're going to. It depends on your MCAT score. It depends on the trend. Depends on all kinds of things. So it's not unusual for somebody to say, what's the GPA I need to get in? What's the MCAT score I need to get in? Well, it depends. There's no one magic number. If you look at the average, I think the average MCAT score for accepted medical students in the United States is 511. But if you apply it with a 511 to some schools, you won't be looked at because their average is a 520. And at other schools, a 506 is or 507. I'm even talking allopathic schools. And of course, if somebody's accepted, if the average is X, that means that people are accepted also with below average scores. So the average overall, frankly, is almost meaningless. It's not useless, but it's not terribly helpful in terms of choosing where to apply. Now, there's another question here that I want to answer. I don't want to answer it. I want to post it. Let me see. And this is from Bill, who does not want to be unmuted. He asks, what if you have a 3.5, good MCATs, research, some clinical experience over the summer, but you don't get in? How do you know what you need to do in order to improve your chances next time? Okay. Who wants to take that first?
I'm happy to take it.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. I mean, if I were working with you, Bill, I would find out more detail. You said something about clinical experience for a summer. Maybe that wasn't enough. You said good. I think you said good MCAT. So what was the good MCAT, and how did you do in all the subscores? Was there a subscore that was below 125? That could be a red flag. It could be that you didn't write a good personal statement, or you didn't have a good letter, or your experiences weren't written up well. So there are many, many factors, and one of the things that we offer is a rejection review that allows one of our consultants to go over your application very carefully and point out the places where it's weak, and then help you figure out how to improve. What med schools like to see in a reapplicant, in your case, would be to say, these are the problems that I had, and this is how I addressed them, and now I'm ready to apply again. I have improved myself. So we really need more detailed information to be able to give you a clear answer, Bill.
I did just post the URL for the med rejection review. And I also wanted to add that, and Sid, I'm sorry, I should be letting you talk first. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. No.
Okay.
I
Okay.
wasn't gonna add anything. I was agreeing with her.
Right. You presented basically a competitive profile for many medical schools, but I would also have to ask, which medical schools did you apply to? Because for some, those stats are not that competitive. They might be less than competitive. And then there's the other issue of presentation. You can present yourself in a really compelling way, or you can present yourself in a way where you blend into the woodwork, and there's nothing that's compelling about it. I did a webinar where it was presentation. There was a Q&A at the end, as opposed to this one where the presentation was very small and the Q&A has been the bulk of it. And at the end, somebody said, well, if I'm a reapplicant and I have these experiences that I want to present, nothing's changed. I mean, I did it 2 years ago. How can I improve that activity description? I said, well, you can be more descriptive. You could be more specific. You can tell what you accomplished as opposed to what you did. Any of those things would improve the presentation. So there's actually, there's kind of the qualifications, and then there's how you present those qualifications so that they are compelling and impressive and show that you're going to both fit in at the medical schools you're applying to and stand out in the applicant pool. I'm sorry, I should have let you guys answer the question, and I just did. All right.
Good answer.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Barry, do you want to take this? Now that I did, I guess I really liked the question.
Well, I thought I had answered. This is still regarding Bill's question, right?
This is still Bill's question, right?
Yeah. So I had a chance to give quite a bit of
information. Do you want to add anything to that? I'm sorry.
I think the two of you pretty much covered it. The one thing that stood out when Bill was putting his question in is the summer of clinical experience.
It's on the low side, right?
It could be. I mean, we don't know. But if it's just one summer, then yeah, I think that would be too low. So yes.
One thing is to look at the total number of hours of clinical experience, because I'm sure the med schools add them up.
Right.
And it's good to have more than one clinical experience.
And it's good to have a range of them as well. So
it's also good to have some consistency with it. If it's you kind of did one summer and checked the box, I got it. It's not quite as impressive as somebody who did it for a year or 2 or 3 or perhaps more.
Yeah, it doesn't show that you love it.
Right. So, okay. I think we've just about out of time. I want to thank Cydney Foote and Dr. Barry Rothman for being part of an outstanding panel when I let them talk. And at this point in time, I want to ask you, what is the most valuable piece of information you got either from the presentation at the beginning or the Q&A? In the question window, please. Okay, so let's see. Somebody says, again, what advice the best advice that you got? Okay. So Chun is saying the most valuable piece of believe in myself. Great, Chun. That's great. Masters. Okay. Who else? Be a better communicator in my application. Wonderful. Not to give up and to keep working hard. Be resilient. That was great advice because I also started my undergrad low. Wonderful. Well, this is great feedback. Thank you so much. Now, I want to thank you all for joining me. If you would like to work with either Sid or Dr. or Barry, that's what you should do. This is what you should do after the webinar. Simply go to accepted.com/primary, choose the service that's right for you, get the guidance you need for that missing how. We've discussed general principles, but how to apply it to you specifically. At some point, we could only go so far, right? Go from confidence to clarity, and for doubts from confusion to clarity, from doubts to confidence. Now, some of you are thinking, gee, except it's expensive. Well, you know what? So is rejection. Every application is it's over $100 between the primary application fee and the secondary application fee. So if you're applying to 20, 30, 20 schools, you're easily looking at $2,000 or $3,000 just in application fees. I'm not talking MCAT prep, I'm not talking travel, I'm not talking any of that. And the cost of reapplication can easily be much more than our fees. And there's the potential that you get into school a year earlier, which means you start earning a doctor's salary a year earlier, which is worth multiples of our fees. So there's a good economic argument for investing in working with a person like Cydney Foote or Dr. Barry Rothman. Every year we work with applicants who talked to us a year earlier and decided after taking the do-it-yourself approach and getting rejected to work with us. They would have been better off working with us initially, and so would you. But enough from me. Let's hear what some accepted clients say. So one of Sid's clients, your help was greatly beneficial and definitely paid off. I interview at 9 of the 10 schools I applied to and will be attending medical school this fall. I appreciate all of your help, and I truly don't think I could have gotten this far without using your service. I appreciate it. And this is for Dr. Gordon, who unfortunately lost his voice. I'm incredibly excited. Herman helped me so much with the entire process. He's both brilliant and a pleasure to work with, accepted to UCSF. And then for Dr. Rothman, was incredible. We could not have asked for a better advisor to work with. He was kind, considerate, went beyond what we could have ever imagined. I'd highly recommend him to anyone looking for assistance with this process. So at this point, I'd like to recommend that you follow the steps on the screen, and think of yourself, imagine yourself in position of the clients you just heard from, able to say to family and friends that you are accepted to medical school and that you know you're going to pursue the career of your dreams. We'd love to help you as we've helped the others whose comments you've heard and thousands of others over the last 25 years. So once again, follow the steps on the screen. And now I have a question for you. Actually, what I have now is a final story and a thought and a question. If you're concerned about the thought, first of all, remember the advice you've gotten here today about steady progress, about believing in yourself, about resilience, and yes, about the ACE, the primary application, the whole medical school application, and the time required to do it. If you're concerned about school selection, the personal statements, the most meaningful experiences, the activity descriptions, the secondaries, the interviews, and the other writing required to apply successfully, and you're anxious about spending the next year or so stressing about this marathon that you're undertaking, remember the excellent advice you've gotten today and your goal. Apply successfully and confidently. And imagine yourself in the place of the client you're going to hear from now. Another story, another testimonial. He had slightly low numbers and was stressed and overwhelmed when he came to us. He worked with Accepted, and here's what he wrote a year after he had been sitting where you are now. Let's go to that. Well, here we go. I've been thinking about this whole crazy process after being accepted to 3 medical schools, and I know that I wouldn't have had a prayer if it weren't for your substantial help. They say the essays are one of the most important aspects of the application, especially for someone like me whose numbers are a little below average. You greatly distressed an important part of this process that was making me quite anxious. I feel much more confident in my essays after working with you. So now you can probably relate to the client you just heard from, slightly no numbers, concerned about the quality and quantity of writing he'll have to do. If you can relate, then also realize that this client did it. He is in medical school. He might be out of medical school by now, and you can do it too. Take the steps he took. Get accepted. And now I have a question for you. You've heard my presentation. You've heard the entire Q&A. Yes, you heard my pitch for services and a little bit of occasional assistance from Barry and Sid. Why are you hesitating to engage with Accepted? Why are you sitting on the fence? In the question window, please. Okay, let's see, it's coming through. Why are you hesitating? Weighing out cost versus benefit. Good, Nura. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Let's see, we're getting the cost mainly, the price. Okay. All right. Well, again, I'd like to point out that you can get an hour of advising with Sid, with Barry, with any of our other outstanding consultants for $330. That is less than the cost of 2 applications, which you are going to send in and have no idea if they're going to be effective. You are constantly investing in this medical school admissions process. Now, it's true, the more significant services, the primary application package, the primary plus secondary, are more expensive, but they're still much less than the cost of reapplication. If you count in all the application fees, the lost salary, the travel expenses, the potential that you might have to retake, prepare for, and retake the MCAT, those all play a role. They're also much less expensive, by the way, than a post-bac program. Though if we think you need a post-bac program, we would tell you that. Any other, Sid, Barry, do you have anything to add to that about the cost?
I think you point out a good thing, Linda. The application process is extremely expensive, and it's much more efficient to get help early in it rather than have to reapply. I would say you could easily spend $8,000 applying during one cycle, and except it wouldn't cost you that much to get quite a bit of help in the application process. For example, you could get substantial amount of help buying our 5-hour package, which costs $1,550. Now that doesn't necessarily cover an entire primary application, but it could go a long way to helping you. And $1,550 is a lot less than the cost of applying for a whole cycle.
Now, Joanne asks, not knowing if an hour is enough. Well, the rejection review, which I don't remember if you applied before or not, you might have, is $500. And again, it's a fraction of the cost of applying. If you don't know what went wrong last time, the cost, the benefit is enormous just to know what you did wrong and get suggestions for how you can improve. You don't want to be making the same mistakes. And particularly if the mistakes or the issues were more issues of presentation, it's very hard to be objective about that. So again, there is benefit. If you want just to get the rejection review, you can get that and stop there. Or you can get 1 hour and stop there. If you feel you need more and it's going to pay off, then get more. So there's a good, strong economic, financial argument to make in support of engaging with accepted and people like Cydney Foote and Dr. Barry Rothman. Now, R is asking it may be too early to start. It's definitely not too early.
No,
Definitely not. No.
A lot of people are starting now, and they're going to be in really good shape
already.
Yeah. But they're going to be in really good shape when it comes time to submit everything. One of the clients I worked with a few years ago had finished his application, his primary by, I believe, February or March, and he had started pre-writing his secondaries, got them all in. He got offers. I think he got like, what was that? Do you remember him, Linda? He got like 13 or 14 interviews. Just right off the bat, everything he got in really quickly, and he just made.
I remember that. Yes. Yeah.
People. There's actually an interview with him on our blog. But no, it is definitely not too early to start.
No, it's not too early at all. Not too early at all. Now, Joanne wrote, not knowing if an hour is enough. I mean, obviously you can start with 1 hour and always buy more. We're not going to prevent it from happening. And if you find that 1 hour valuable and you want to buy another hour, that means that you got value out of the first hour and you'll go for the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth or whatever you find value for, what you find value in. Can you repeat this? Yeah, go ahead.
I would say 1 hour is a good amount of time to see if you and your consultant can work well together and to start to establish a relationship. Yeah, it's not going to be enough to complete a primary application.
No.
But it may help you feel more secure in working with that consultant and give you more hope about moving forward.
Right. Now, R also asked me to repeat the, I guess he doesn't see the screen right now. The discount offers is $250 off a primary application package. It's on the screen now. $500 off a primary plus secondary application package. The URL is accepted.com/primary, and the coupon code is SAVEBIG, SAVEBIG, and the offer ends March 19th. So again, if you go to that URL, accepted.com/primary, you'll see those services. The coupon code is not on the site. It's just for registrants at this webinar. And again, it's Save Big. It expires March 19th. Let's see, there were some other really good questions here.
Can I add one thing about just costs?
Yes.
I think that it's a good idea to talk to your consultant. We're very flexible with the services we offer. We can really pinpoint where we're going to have the maximum value for you. So, you know, don't shy away and say, oh, the whole thing is too expensive. We can be very flexible about, you know, what we're working on and how much time we spend on it. You know, if we go an hourly route. So there are options. So don't be scared of that.
Right, and you should know that the instructions I always give our staff is to recommend the service that works best for the client. If you talk to any of the consultants, they will tell you that I made quite clear to them very early on, they should never recommend a service that the client doesn't need.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk to
In
any
general,
yeah.
in general, we try to save our clients money by finding the most expedient way to get them where they need to be. And as Sid pointed out, sometimes working hourly is more efficient than, say, buying one of the comprehensive packages.
And sometimes a comprehensive package is more efficient. We have both
Yes.
for different people.
Yes.
Yes. You know, so I'm just, Sid sent me a text with the early bird story, the story about the guy who got his applications in early and got all those acceptances. And then let's see what else. Joanne, or if 5 or 10 hours would be too much, and determine that cost factor and saving factor. Well, one thing you should know, if you buy the 5 or 10 hour plan, you save on the hourly fee. You get the lowest hourly fee with a 10-hour plan. If you don't use it all up, you can request a refund of unused time. You'll lose the multiple hour discount, the relevant multiple hour discount, but you can get a refund of unused time, and you can't be worse off than if you had bought either a 5-hour plan and then hour by hour or something like that. So you're not locked in if you go for a larger plan. And you're also not locked in if you're not happy. So that's the other advantage. We do have a 1-hour minimum. That's the one thing that, you know, there's no refund on that 1 hour, that first hour. All right, any other questions here? Not knowing, I think I've, any other questions? Well, are there any other reasons why you're sitting on the fence that you want to discuss and raise right now? If not, then we look forward to working with all of you. We'd love to work with you. You've been a great audience. Again, Sid and Barry, thank you so much for participating. I think,
you're welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Yes, we're getting lots of thank yous now. And actually, Chun, earlier, I'm looking for what she wrote in response to my question. She wrote, let me find it. She wrote, I didn't feel like someone like me has a chance anymore, that this was just a one-time opportunity in my teens. But I feel better now, and I'm looking forward to working with you all. We look forward to working with you. And I'm sure Sid and Barry would agree. So we're getting lots of thanks yous here. I want to share them with Barry and Sid, from R, from Melissa, from Joanne, and you're all very welcome. And have a very good evening. Stay well, stay away, stay healthy, stay well, and we look forward to working with you. Take care.
And good luck. Good luck with the applications.